to work your dogs these days?
Well, I live in the woods, and all my dogs have big yards that are about, I think the smallest yard I have is like 60 by 40. I have some that are 300 foot by 200. So, and I pair them up, male, female, so they're constantly running, jumping, doing all kinds of stuff. What I do to test them is it gets really hot and humid here. Mm-hmm. So when a dog reaches a certain age, and these are dogs that, I pretty much have faith that they breathe pretty good just from observing them in the, outside in the heat, playing or doing whatever, or something sometimes happens. I had a dog called Mayday, and his daughter. Mayday was a dog that I sent to a hog hunter as a pup. He became legendary in southern Missouri. He could run incredible forever, catch several hogs in one day, and live to tell about it the next day and be fine. Walking. He had a really good structure and really crazy gait. But anyway, I had him and his daughter. I pulled up in my driveway, and I'd heard all the dogs barking down below. And it was one of those days. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like 102 degrees, crazy humidity, like the kind of humidity that you can't get out the shower, get in your car, turn on the air conditioner, and get it cold enough without being sweaty. Mm-hmm. It was one of those terrible days. And so I hear all this ruckus. I run down there, and he and his daughter had gotten out of their yard, and in the woods line on the back of another pen, I saw Dee Dee, his daughter, was trouncing at some dog. It looked like, I couldn't tell for sure what it was, but it looked kind of like a liver-colored pit bull mix. Anyway, neither one of them have collars on because I don't leave them in the yard with collars on. So I'm trying to get her off of him, and I got her by the back of the neck, and my hands are sweating so bad that the dog, I got her to let go of the dog, and the dog took off into the woods, and I couldn't hold on to her, and she slipped through my fingers. And then so she runs into the woods, and Mayday runs after her. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so hot, they're going to die. And I don't know where they're going. And my property is surrounded by thick woods. And the guy behind me has 150 acres of woods. And so there's no way I could run through the woods in the heat to try to find these dogs. So I fixed the hole in the yard. I opened the gate. I'm waiting and hoping they run back by. Nothing. I go back down there after sunset, start a fire, wait, hope they'll come back. Nothing. I go in, go to bed, wake up the next morning, come back down there, nothing. No dogs. And I'm thinking they're dead because it was so hot. If they're, bulldogs are stupid, they'll keep running and running. So around 1 o'clock, I hear my dogs barking. I come down, and here's Dee Dee and Mayday, and their tongues hanging out. They're like so overheated, and I threw her in a water trough I had and put Mayday away. And 5 minutes later, they're not panting barely at all. They're fine. They're in the yard. I went away. So I have stuff like that happens. But what I do once the male or female is about 18 months to 2 years of age, because that's when the bad breathing starts, I'll take whatever they like to do. If they chase a ball, if they like doing the flirt pole, and I'll wait till it's really hot out. I have well water, so I turn the hose on and leave it running. So I get in their yard, and I work the shit out of them, and I get them so hot, to the point where I can hear if they're breathing bad. I can hear, if there's, any discoloration to their tongue, if they're having any trouble. And I've had some dogs that I thought were going to be good breathers, and they started having issues. That's why I have the water hose right there to cool them down. And that's mainly nowadays what I do. Back in the day when I had a little more time and help, I used to have a friend that lived here in St. Louis that was a world-class trainer, decoy, and he helped me with a lot of stuff. And I had a dog that I did iron dog with, hardest hitting combat, stuff like that. I love to do that stuff. It just requires a lot of time. And you got to have a club or a decoy, somebody that can help you work your dogs. I'm hoping to do that again someday, maybe when I retire.
Talk a little bit about the temperament and trainability of your dogs.
It's weird. I had a litter 6 months ago, and I kept 2 pups out of it. And it was a unique litter in that I produced the mother, but I produced her from 2 outcross dogs that I acquired. The father was this bullhead dog. I probably talked about bullhead before. Jeff Beavers is in Pennsylvania. I think he's got the best standard dog bloodline I've ever seen. He had this dog, a dog called Dose. He was kind of a blocky, kind of bully looking for a standard dog. Anyway, he was an awesome dog. And I got a female that was from a guy that had a real nice male. He was a Supreme Grand Champion, Fred Yelton. Fred Yelton had a dog called Buster. He was a Supreme Grand Champion. He was a standard dog, mainly King Haven blood, but he also had a little bit of that Aspen Rare blood and stuff. He was a different standard dog because he was real thick. He had a real thick rear end, real heavy. It looked like for a standard dog, he was kind of a heavier set, heavier boned dog. Big, nice, big head, just exceptional temperament. And he seemed to be a good producer. And I had his daughter. Fred had bred him to another mainly King Haven dog. So I had acquired this female. Her name was Jewel. And I bred her to my dog Dose and produced this female I have called Julie. And so Julie's 100% standard. She's bullhead and King Haven blood and a little bit of Aspen Rare way back there. And I bred her to, I have a big male called Dibo. Dibo, his father is the son of Dose, that bullhead Dose bred to a big female I had. That's all my blood. And then the bottom half, his mother was from Buster's son. This dog called Bodacious Bo. I think he's a grand champion or Supreme Grand Champion too. Really, Bo's a really nice looking big dog. I was hoping that he was going to be the new it dog to get all the bully people to want to breed to him, but those people didn't catch on, or I don't know, he wasn't promoted the way he should have been. But Bobo's a nice dog. He's like 100 pounds, 95 pounds, big, thick dog. One of the best moving big dogs I've ever seen. He breathed great. He has incredibly tight hips. And to me, he's got the perfect type of head. He's got a longer muzzle, but it's wide all the way to the tip and just thick and blocky. So anyway, I bred him to my female Wreckin' Twiggy. That's one of my better producing dogs, and produced this female called Twiggy Lou. And Twiggy Lou's, I just retired her. She's probably one of the best females I've had probably in 10 years. Anyway, T. Lou is mother to Dibo, and a Dose son I had called Big Papa. He's the father. So I bred them together, and I had this litter that is about 3/8 bullhead and about 3/8 King Haven, and the rest is my blood, my traditional bloodline. And there was, I think, 8 or 9 pups in there. And I was shocked because 2 of the pups are kind of thick and blocky and bully. And not like a Johnson dog, but kind of like the Dick the Bruiser or a dog, Boss Man, Countryman Heights, Country Boy and Boss Man type. They're thick dog, big head. So I got those two, and I sold the rest of them. Some of them went to friends. One of them went to that training friend of mine. he actually just took a hog hunting trip in Texas, and took the pup. And at 5 months of age, the dog caught perfectly, and he got trounced around by the pig quite a bit, and never got dismotivated. he loved it. Mm-hmm. And but this litter is so weird because I'm used to my dogs can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. Like I'd say a typical Braveheart dog, a good one, usually they're a little stupid. They have so much prey drive that they'd kill themselves, just going after something. I had this dog Puma, that went to a hog hunter friend of mine in Texas. I raised him, and he was the nuttiest dog. Like his thing was the flirt pole. He'd hang. I'd have one way down below on my property, and my dogs don't run loose. They're in their yards. But when I work them and play with them, I'd bring them down there, and I had this. It was in between these two trees. I had a big piece of wood went across two trees, and then hung a chain and a ratchet system with a couple garage door rings. So this dog would somehow find a way out of his yard, and he'd go down there and jump on that spring pole. But he would not stop. Like, he would just go and go and go. He was like obsessed in the head or something. His eyes looked bugged out. Like I had to physically pick him up and carry him, or drive my car down there and load him up and take him back to his yard. And then once he got away, he'd chill out a little bit. But some of my dogs, they have high prey drive. They get a little thing they like to do, when you work them. Some like the flip pole. My dog Clyde, he loved chasing the tennis ball. Like, that was all we did. Sometimes he'd drive me nuts. I'd just take him to this big soccer field off my property, because if I did it on my property, all the other dogs would just go nuts. But I'd take him to the soccer field, and I don't know if you know those things, this thing called a chuck it. You can get it at Walmart. It helps you throw a tennis ball real far. I would do that till my arm was about to fall off, sometimes for 45 minutes straight, and he just was crazy in the head with balls and stuff. He just had to have that tennis ball. But most of my dogs love the flirt pole, and that's what I do usually if they want to get out and play. The pups I got now, I've had a little bit of an outcross with the King Haven blood, and I've messed a little bit, I messed quite a bit with the bullhead stuff. And it's just weird how different. They're a little different. The bullhead dogs are awesome. Like, temperaments are awesome. Like these pups I have, I have a newer van, and it's got leather seats and all that. And usually I would never put a puppy in there loose. It'd have to be in the crate. But this dog Fedor I kept, and his sister Dosey, I can put them in the front seat on a beach towel and go into Walmart, and they won't destroy anything. They'll just sit there. They'll be nice and easy, and they're not dud dogs. They're like I said, their brother was on a hog already and did great. They, you pull out a ball or anything, they got a lot of drive and stuff, but I don't know. It's like, and their dog Dose, Bullhead's Dose, he was the same way. If I brought him in my house, he was like so well behaved, and if I put him in the car, he just would chill and ride perfect. Matter of fact, I called Jeff after I got him. I got him kind of in a weird way. Originally, he was one of Jeff's friend's dogs. And so I didn't know that. At the time, I called Jeff, and I'm like, dude, this dog, did somebody put a lot of socialization into him and stuff? Because, like, he's just chill. Like, he's so good. He was raised on a chain. And once I got him used to, hey, you can't knock me down. You can't just pull anytime you want. He was great on a leash. Everything was great with the dog. And Jeff told me no. Matter of fact, the guy I got him back from him because he was kind of homeless and he was like sleeping on people's couches or camping out in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So no, he didn't get any socialization. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. And I've seen that with some of his pups, but this litter is the most of any of them. Matter of fact, I have a friend who, he's a young guy who had a dog for me called Francis that was actually a bullhead cross to my stuff. And Francis grew up to be quite a dog, but they had moved different houses, and then Francis got off his tie and chased their horses into the road, and one of them, I think, got hit by a car. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, the dog was awesome. Like he lived on a farm, but he would go after the pigs, but he would let chickens and chicks walk all over. He wouldn't do anything to a chicken. But so anyway, he had to find Francis a home, and then so I had Puff out of this litter, and he's moved to a different place and he's more situated. So I let him have the pup that was the biggest pain in the ass in the litter. I thought, oh, he's probably the gamiest, driviest, nuttiest dog, because that's what my friend likes. And so I keep thinking I'm going to get these reports back. It's like, this dog's a pain in the ass. He's drivey. He does, but he's like, no, he's chill. He's so chill. He said, we got 3 cats, and they have 2 little poo-poo dogs. And he says, they're perfect with them. He said, matter of fact, the cats do more damage than he does. So it's weird how, because bullhead dogs are mainly bred for grit, and they make great catch dogs. Like they'll catch, forget about it, they'll catch. But some of the drawback, some of the hunters have told me are they don't tend to have an off switch. They flip out even when when the hog's dispatched. They don't want to give up. They want to keep grabbing the pig. And the only other drawback I really see is I've had a little bit of trouble with dog aggression. It's weird. It's not like a lot of American Bulldogs have some dog aggression. Johnson dogs can have it too, but it's different. Like the bullhead dogs are like very confident, chill. They don't act like they're crazy. Oh, they see another dog and they act crazy. It's only when the other dog growls at them or challenges them or puts their paw on their back that they don't respond the way I'd like to see them respond. Sometimes they just launch into an attack. They're just the switch flips.
Right.
Some of them. I mean, you can't say it about all of them. I had a dog, Fred. He wouldn't like that at all, and he was an ugly dog. He was the runt. The guy, Jeff told me he was the runt, and but I liked him better than his brother and his sister that I had out of the same litter. He just didn't grow up to be a very good-looking dog, but he was smart, and he'd get along with another male. He'd have to get attacked. Matter of fact, I retired him with a hog hunter, and I kept telling the guys, and I love this dog. Like, this dog and I are like, there's something between us. And if there's sometimes hog hunters, if the dog won't catch, they will cull it. And I told them, whatever you do, I don't care if you're hunting at 3:00 in the morning, call me, I'll come get him. If he shows any dog aggression, that's what I was worried about. The hog hunters you can't have a catch dog that wants to attack any other dog or gets frustrated and grabs another dog. Mm-hmm. But Fred never did anything. Matter of fact, that guy used plot hounds for his bay dogs, and he was like, he said, no, I have trouble with my plot hounds, start trouble with them. He said, and if the plot hounds start trouble with them, he ends the trouble. So they're not all like that, but they're actually, I don't know, it's smarter. I don't know, I just love that. Whereas my dogs, the heavier Johnson, I don't know if it's from the English Bulldog or the St. Bernard or who knows whatever other crap they put in there. They tend to have a on switch and then don't have any common sense. Like that kills a lot of those bully type Johnson dogs is they get keyed up and nobody's around and they get hot and they overheat and die. Mm-hmm. unlike a sensible dog that might think, you know what, I'm a little hot, and I'm just barking at the neighbor, the neighbor's new car or whatever, some weird, squirrel on the other side of the fence. This isn't that important. I'm just going to go sit in the shade and chill out. I find a lot of the heavier bully dogs, the ones that have drive, they don't have an off switch to the point where they don't. I had a dog years ago. This was one of the first dogs that opened my eyes to the breeding issues. She was a daughter of Mufasa. My friend, Kenny McAllister, owned Mufasa, and he bred Mufasa first time to this little daily dog called Hot Toddy. Mm-hmm. Hot Toddy was like a little 50-pound bitch. And so he bred Mufasa to this female Hot Toddy. And the litter, there was like 3 pups in the litter. And the boys were, decent size, really extreme bully, like 1-inch muzzle, huge heads, nice muscle. People flipped out over those dogs. Well, there was one female in that first litter, and they pen-hipped her. She was tiny. She was like 55 pounds, just like her mom. But she looked like a game-bred pit and an English bulldog if you picked all the best parts of each one, Mm-hmm. She didn't have good structure, but she had real tight muscles, real tight skin, real nice thick muscle. She had a big fat head with like a 1.5-inch muzzle. And it was big, kind of Englishy. So anyway, I had her, and so I never had anything bred like that. And it was November, and it was freezing cold out. It was like 21 degrees with the wind blowing. The old house I used to live in, I had these big maple trees in the corner of the yard. I had a huge one in the corner right up against, close to the fence. So this was before cell phones. When you got a call, you went in the kitchen and grabbed the phone off the wall and had a long curly cord.
Right.
Well, the phone rings. My wife said, "You got a call." And it was some dog person. I'm talking to them. And I got her outside playing with this hard plastic ball. It's a solid hard ball. And my old house, I had like a 40-foot patio, and it had like 75 feet of river rock, like you put in a playground. Mm-hmm. And so she'd bat that hard ball around there constantly. She would not stop. She'd hit it and make noise. She'd hit it and make noise. So I'm talking on the phone, and I guess I was on the phone for 30, 40 minutes, and I'm like, I got to go. So I go out, and I'm looking, and I can't find her. And I'm like, how did she get in here? I got a 6-foot fence. There's no way she can get out here. I looked everywhere. I'm looking everywhere. Then I heard like a little squeak, and then I heard the ball, rolling against the thing. And it turns out she was behind a tree in the corner. She was laying flat on her belly with her back legs behind her. She had the ball up against the fence, and she was breathing so bad, she was overheating. Her tongue was gray, purplish. Mm. And it was getting to the point where all I could hear was squeaks. It wasn't a rattle. And stupid dog, she's close to death, and she's smacking the ball. Every once in a while, she'd get energy to smack the ball. I had to grab her, run her in my house, throw her in a bathtub, and run cold water over her and saved her. Mm. But that's the dog that started me. I knew there were some problems because I sold the dog to somebody that overheated and died. But at that point, I lived in town. I didn't have dogs that stayed outside 24/7. And I had a kennel house, but it had air conditioning in it. It had air conditioning and a big fan. So my dogs were pretty pampered back then. Everybody lived in the house or lived in my indoor-outdoor kennel. So that was the first time I'm like, geez, it's freezing cold outside. How the hell can this dog overheat? And it's because she didn't breathe good, and she was nuts. Like she's, when I say nuts in a good way, she had tons of drive, and that's what kills these bully dogs. They can't breathe, and then if you get one that's got some drive, I talked to a young guy about a year ago, and he was talking about how he doesn't like the drive. He's breathing that out of him, as if like that's going to help the breathing. which, to me, it's like, oh my God, that's a sin.
Mm-hmm.
This breed of dogs, to be a working dog, you got to have some kind of prey drive, some kind of drive.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the story of all breeds. They're making them just kind of like fat little couch potato looking, deformed mutants. Weird looking
How would you compare a male versus a female as far as temperament and whatnot?
The males, it's not a hard, fast rule, but the males in American Bulldogs, they're kind of like a male lion. They're lazier, a little bit lazier. I shouldn't say not all of them. Some of them none of them are lazy, but they, compared to some females, they can be kind of lazy. Like some of my male house dogs, if you ring the doorbell, they'll bark maybe twice, and then they'll go back to sleep or whatever. They don't care. But a female, that bitch will not shut up. She's on everything. Just like a female lion, she does all the work. She kills everything, brings the food, raises a pup, raises her cubs. And the male kind of pisses on stuff and defends the territory. He'll fight another lion or hyenas or whatever that comes, but he's pretty much sitting under the shade and chilling out. Mm-hmm. Male American Bulldogs can be like that. I've had several people that have bought two from me, and I get people that, they may have a male, and they're like, I want to get another one. Oh, I want a male. I'm like, no way. There's no way I'd sell you two males. Right. I don't really like selling two females to somebody. And so they get a female, and they're like, well, I just don't, the females just aren't as sweet. I'm like, oh, no. American Bulldogs, they're just as sweet. I mean, they're just as sweet as a male. The only thing you're going to find is she's probably going to be the boss. Not that even if he's a real dominant dog, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, it's kind of like real life. A lot of men, we just shut up after a while. It's like, okay, whatever, you win. You got more energy. I can't deal with arguing with you, or I don't want to hear it. Whatever. Quit bitching and I'll do it. That's kind of how female American Bulldogs in general, I really think if you want a working dog, like you want to do sport work and stuff like that, I've never done it too much with a female, but I think they probably do better. The males do great. Don't get me wrong. It's just they're a little more chill. They can have you can have issues too. Some of them can be stupid, dog aggressive, but I just find sometimes they're a little bit. They're not generally as intense as some of the females, but they both can be great dogs. And there's no, that's what I'm just saying. Generally, it's really nothing concrete. I've had males they bounce off the walls, and the default that something happens, they'll bark and they want to defend their territory. They're a lot more energetic, but just in general, I think the males can be a little more chill, and the females tend to be a little more sensitive to whatever's going on. It makes sense. They have to raise a litter of pups. Females need a little more get up and go. Hopefully a little more smarts than a male. All male's got to do is find the hole and defend his territory.
Is there a limit to how close you will breed?
I probably explained this one time before about inbreeding. I'm actually doing a father-daughter breeding right now, but I've done a ton of inbreedings. I've done a lot of line breedings. I've done a lot of outcrosses, but there's nothing, one thing. They can all be shit. They can all be shitty. I mean, it's just kind of the spin of the roulette wheel. But inbreeding, you need it. You shouldn't do it just to do it. You got to have something you're trying to reproduce, or some quality in that dog you're inbreeding on that you want to double up on and lock in. So you should never do an inbreeding unless you're willing to cull the whole litter, whether that means spay and neuter them and put them in a pet home, or watch to see if they're going to be any health issues. And if they do have health issues, you have to put them down. So, you just can't, you shouldn't, especially in America, especially if you're breeding bully type American Bulldogs. I don't think you should inbreed and sell puppies to pet people. That would be kind of evil.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I haven't had a whole lot of any of the inbreeding stuff I've ever done. If I've culled stuff or not used it, washed it out, it's been mainly stuff like bad pasterns, looser elbows than what I normally ever get. Of course, anything that you have that's negative can come out too, like breathing. Oh, temperament. Really got to watch temperament, because I did a breeding so tight. I did it for myself, and the 2 pups that I kept, I had to put down. But it was mainly, they did have some, one of them had pastern issues, and they were a lot bullier than I thought they would be. But the final thing was, especially the male, he was very sharp. Like, I had a friend drive his truck, brand new truck, down below where I kept my dogs. We were talking and doing stuff, and he's just seen this different car at 6 months of age, lost his mind. I'm like, what? He would grab the chain link and try to rip it, like he was so pissed at this weird. And he did other goofy things too. That's the worst thing that's ever happened. Mainly with bully dogs, it's like the breathing. Any fault that your dog has, you're going to, there's a good chance you're going to intensify it. Even if it doesn't come out in that breeding, then when you subsequently breed that inbred dog, it sometimes I think it's even stronger the next go round, even if you outcross.
Right.
But I've built a lot of good stuff from my inbreedings, but I also outcross. I mean, I've probably done, I can count them here. I did the Man of War. I did the Dinah, the Aspen Rare, the black female. I bred to a standard dog, Bama Boy type painter dog. That was a bust. I bred to Eric Rose dog, a female from him. That was basically line bred iron axe head and Bama Boy.
Uh-huh.
Bama Boy. Boss Hog and iron axe head. I got a little bit of that in one of my dogs. It worked out okay. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't terrible. The breathing always worked out good. And then I started doing bullhead dogs. And I did a lot of bullhead dogs. It's like I said, when I went to his yard, I freaked out. Like, I couldn't believe it. I knew that he had good dogs because that was with the performance guys at the time. He was, when people said, who do you think has the best yard or the best dogs? A couple guys that were hog hunters said Jeff Beavers. But I couldn't get a hold of him. Nobody would give me his phone number. Nobody probably knew his phone number. Because Jeff is the kind of guy that he has his kids, and he's got his dogs, and he really doesn't. He doesn't get on Facebook or any of that stuff. He really doesn't. Like, when I finally got his phone number, he goes, "You want to breed to one of my dogs?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to bring a female out there and breed." And he goes, "Yeah, I guess I'll do it." And when I got there, I saw these huge dogs. They were like, he had a dog, Brutus, that lived in his house. It was 125 pounds. And he was Bama Boy and King Haven stuff. His dog, Brimstone, he was like a 120-pound dog. And then he had just a yard full of, some females were 90 pounds and some males were 100, 110, 95. You just don't see that kind of size. And they had good structure. They seem to have great temperaments. They were kept kind of like a game-bred pit bull yard at the time. He lived in a small place. I think he moved a lot of acreage now. But so I used his dogs. I got quite a bit of his dogs. And went through all kinds of, till dose turned out to be the best thing. And now I'm actually kind of this last litter I line bred on dose. And I loved those, and I liked what he produced when I bred him to my females, but I wasn't like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing on earth. They were good dogs. And I had a little bit of trouble, like I said, with animal aggression. When I sold the dogs to somebody, I got 2 dogs back. And then this guy, Tom Hare, Jersey Strong American Bulldogs, he's in New Jersey. He's been in the breed a while, and he had a dog he did a lot of stuff with cold country. So he had a female called Vixen. Vixen was from a dog called Wrecking Bull, and Wrecking like 3/4 of my breeding, 1/4 like Kennedy, and then the other half was Daly. And anyway, so he had this female. I thought she looked a lot like the dog BMJ, and he bred her to that dog Buster, and I never really saw Buster. I never heard of Buster. I heard of King Haven dogs, but I had never heard of anybody breeding a bully dog with King Haven dog. And so Tom Hare did that breeding, and that's what produced Bobo. He had another one that he placed with a friend, Murphy. And then I think there was a female, and then there was another male. And they all seem to have really nice structure. They all turned out to be real nice. And Bobo, my friend Stacy, bought him as a puppy from Tom, and he just bought him. He was into American Bulldogs, and then he kind of had to get out, and so he just thought he'd get a puppy again as a pet, and so he bought this dog as a pet. And at the time, they thought he was more of the standard look, because with those kind of litters, you just don't know sometimes. So I thought Bobo was going to be more of the standard type, so he got him, and Bobo turned out to be just a big, thick, well-structured, incredibly moving dog. Like that dog, his movement, I see it in my dog, his grandson. I've got Daibo. For a big dog, like he picks up his feet just effortlessly, turn on a dime, just gorgeous. They tested his hips were great. Everything was just fantastic. And then they started showing him when he was adult, but he wasn't socialized for that kind of stuff. I don't think he was that socialized at all. And he won, but sometimes he would just Stacy would say, oh, he goes after other dogs. But really, I don't think he was trying to fight other dogs. I think he was just a little insecure and just wanted to, pull up the leash to get towards the other dog. I think if you let the leash go, I don't think Bobo would start anything. But anyway, so my friend Stacy that owned Bobo, he had dogs down from me. He had a dog called Junkyard, who was from my dog that I produced, Spawn, bred to a Kennedy female. And she was a nice dog. She looked a lot like my dog, Broadzilla. She was really a good working dog. And so Stacy did iron dog, did all kinds of stuff with him. He loved working dogs. So he said, oh, I don't think Bobo, he doesn't have it like his grandma used to. And so after he started going to all these shows and winning, he really wanted to do iron dog with them. So he sent him to a guy in Chicago who's a trainer. And against my wishes, I like the trainer. The guy's great. But I told him, I said, man, you just don't have a foundation on him. He's suspicious of strange people because he wasn't socialized. So he sent him to this guy for a month or two, and the dog did bite work. He did everything you need him to do, but he came back with a totally different attitude towards strange men or anybody that acts a little scared of him. If somebody's a little worried around him, he I don't know. I don't think he thought that was weird. So he made it, I think, to Grand Champion or Supreme Grand Champion. But sometimes in NKC, they have a weird thing where they like to surround the dog with like 3 judges. And I don't know who said this is a requirement, but you got to like touch the dog, which I understand. You know, you should be able to touch the dog, but they like get 3 people and they all stare at the dog. And if one of them's a little intimidated, then the dog picks that up, and then they have to like touch them from the back of the head. They run it their hands down to their butt. Well, you get 3 guys doing that, and the dog's a little suspicious. You know, he was put through fight work and stuff the wrong way, I think. And so he started growling at people. But despite that, I think he's, like I said, a Supreme Grand Champion. So he won a whole lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's how good of a quality dog he is. So I bred to him twice. And, you know, he's an outcross dog, so I can't say he was the greatest stud, although I produced really nice pups from him. And I can't say he's without any problems, but as far as dogs, American Bulldogs go, holy shit, he's got so many pluses. Mm-hmm. The negatives are very small, and everything, all his pluses are like pretty crazy. Like, he doesn't just have good structure, he's got great structure. He doesn't just have good movement, he's got incredible movement. He doesn't have just tight hips, he's got incredibly tight hips. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have just decent breathing, he has really good breathing. So Tom Hare did that breeding, and like I said, I kind of was so disappointed because when my friend Stacy had him, he told me, "Oh, I think he's going to be the new Mufasa," which means, you know, Mufasa was a bully dog that just he's in every, and people bred the shit out of him because he was so cool looking. So, and I kind of was hoping. I did 2 breedings, almost kind of hoping that would encourage other people to do it. And he's been bred, but mainly he's been bred back to the Kinghaven blood. He hasn't really been bred to this bully stuff. Right. So that's kind of where I'm at now. This last breeding I did is a line breeding on Dose and a line breeding on Buster, who is Bobo's dad. And like I said, I got two dogs that have barely any Johnson bully blood in it, and they are bully. They're not perfect, but they're pretty cool. They're pretty awesome, pretty thick and cobby, and the litter's really big. You know, all the dogs are nice size, so I'm pretty thrilled with it. I'm going to see how these 2 mature and see what goes, but it could change the direction a little bit because and like I said, the whole litter, 9 pups, everybody that I've talked to is like, oh, they never do anything wrong. They're just wonderful. Potty training was quick. They haven't chewed anything up in their house. I'm like, whoa. Because that's some of the routine I go through when I sell people dogs. It's like, look, if you crate train your dog, don't put a carpet in there. Don't put a towel in there. If you're worried about him being on a cold floor, put the carpet on the other side of the crate. Don't put rawhides. Don't put socks and little things for them to chew on, because they're just going to become destructive and they may eat the sock or whatever, and that's not good. Mm-hmm. So I'd say some of that English Bulldog blood is a little nutty when it's outcrossed. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was younger, I used to think, well, it's probably some pit bull or some hunting type dogs in there. They're a little hyper, a little drivey. But now, after years and years, I think it's that English Bulldog blood Johnson put in, or there's probably a whole slew of other people that put English Bulldog in there too. I hate to say it because the English Bulldogs are genetically unhealthy, messed up breed. But
right,
there's a trainer that he had a whole bunch of American Bulldogs, but granted, he was kind of an extremist. You know, he wants a dog he can walk through anything with, and it's just a personal protection dog that doesn't back up. Mm-hmm. And he said that because he had a lot of performance standard dogs, and he said he liked a lot of things about them. He said, but the bully, he said, for me to really like them, they got to have a certain percentage of the Johnson or bully blood. And I think it's because they tend to be a little more civil, and they tend to be flipping crazy sometimes in the work. Like right. They get keyed up on something, they don't have the common sense to chill.
Right.
or to understand, hey, I'm on a leash. They're not going to let me go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to describe. It's just, I don't know. Like you got to, it's like that Johnson blood. Like it sounds crazy, but they're not good working dogs because they can't breathe. But some of them, not all of them, but some of them are they got the Bulldog quotient, stupid Bulldog quotient in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm paring things down. I'm trying to lock in certain things, just a couple little things here and there. And I don't think I'm going to do any more outcrossing. I think I'm just done with that. I'm too old to do it. I don't know if I got 10 or 20 more years of breeding. If I go 20 years, I'll have to make it to 80.
Has the diet changed at all? What are you feeding these days?
I get this food out of Mexico, Missouri. I used to get it with a bunch of hog hunters would order it. And now I'm having to drive up there myself. I can't even tell you the name of it. It's like a hunter's blend. It's a little company and they make it themselves. And I'm thrilled with it. I mean, it's not called the wild or any of that fancy shit, but it's got 2 sources of meat in it, and then it's got it doesn't have corn, but they must have a deal with like broken pasta and rice, because it's got broken pasta and rice and the ingredients. I like it because it's a real small kibble. All my dogs seem to do great on it. It's not that expensive compared to, it's not $50 a bag like you get all these poofy foods. And I used to do some raw here and there, but now it's just too much time. I don't have enough time to do it. And it's when you keep two dogs to every yard, you really got to sit in there with them. If you throw two chicken leg quarters out, those are fighting terms. My dogs don't usually fight over food because I raise them on free feeders. I free feed my dogs, and I find it works out. As long as they never run out of food, they don't gorge themselves. They don't really care about the food that much. It's there. It's always there. They're not going to fight over it, and they tend to maintain their weight.
Mm-hmm.
You would think if they have all the food they want to eat, they'd get fat, but my dogs have so much exercise. They entertain and play themselves to death. Mm-hmm. So I rarely even see them at the feeder.
Right. Are you feeding any kind of supplements?
I used to do this because I used to raise chickens, but I don't anymore. But I have a friend, a lady that I do some stuff for. She's got chickens, and she never. And a lot of times the eggs are, I'm like, they just laid these. I haven't been out for 2 days. She's like, I don't know. So I take them. Sometimes they're passed. I've never had a dog break one open and have a chicken there. But I give them that. And that's another thing. What I do is I take concrete, pour it in a bowl to make these concrete bowls. And I put the concrete bowls by the gate. So if I'm in a rush, I can just take the foods and smash them. I just smash them in. They eat the shell, everything. And I had one dog that would get into a fight over an egg, but most of them are like, eh. Some of my dogs, I throw them up and they'll just catch it in their mouth and eat it.
Right.
But yeah, eggs are great. If I had time, if I had a kitchen and time, I'd love to feed raw chicken and eggs. I'd still feed the kibble, but I'd like to supplement more with that. But I don't. I have a lot of people that accuse me over the years of, oh, that guy put steroids in his dog. And I'm like, well, if I knew anything about steroids, I wouldn't be a big fat pig. I'd be in shape myself if I spent money on steroids. But I've never done steroids in my life. My dogs certainly have never done steroids. Mm-hmm. It all goes back to genetics, basically, with my dogs, because I started with this female Broadzilla, and she was a weird, like the first American Bulldog I ever saw was like that. She had bulky muscle, and she had like zero body fat. She had really short fur and thin-looking skin, so it would show everything. She was a white dog. She's the first classic bully champion in the history of the breed. and she was from a weird breeding, 100% Johnson female she didn't have muscle like that. And then her dad was this dog, Tyson. I guess he didn't really have muscle like that either. He's kind of like a bull mastiff looking, kind of thick hide big dog. Mm-hmm. But she came out with that muscle, and I don't know if I'd never seen anything, pictures or seen an American Bulldog that had that type until I saw another dog that's kind of related to her, but not exactly. That was 6 months older than her, and that's Mufasa. When I saw those two, like, whoa, new direction. You know, they're tight-skinned, real thick muscle. And like I said, kind of like if you took the flavor of an English Bulldog's girthiness and thickness, but the tight, athletic, skin and everything of a game dog. Mm-hmm. Right. That's not the combination. I'm not giving out, I don't know of any. I know that breeds had game dogs crossed in here and there, but that's not documented. I don't really know. Right. I only know of the one that, the black one that they talked about, and then there was a dog Joe Painter had. I think they call him Terminator. He was a white dog, and they said he was an American Bulldog, but then the guy that owned him the last time said, no, I got his real papers. He's 100% white pit bull. That's the thing that really, it's hard for me to convey. I'm not that good at explaining it, and I was the same as everybody else. These people that think that every breed of dog is like a species, a separate species, they're not. They're all dogs. And the idea of forever and ever having a closed gene pool and selecting on shit genes, cosmetic, weird, whatever people think is right, without testing working dogs. I used to think, when I first started breeding, I used to think, God, I'm just like a Nazi, you select dogs. It's kind of like eugenics, mm-hmm. I thought it was like eugenics. I don't know if you know what the eugenics program was in the 20s.
Absolutely.
In the United States, they had all these weird, people thought different races, different things, different families of people, whatever, different ethnicities were better, cleaner, better, smarter, and you should breed with your own type of person, Caucasian, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, the whole Nazi plan, well, they don't realize that Hitler wasn't the guy that invented that. That was Victorian and American ideology. Snooty, weird, wealthy people thought that you could breed. And I always thought that being a dog breeder is kind of like that, because you're sticking with a family, a breed, and everything's about purity. What the fuck is purity in a dog? Mm-hmm. Well, the way all the greatest breeds ever happened, pit bulls, working border collies, pointers, great hunting dogs that do incredible things, incredible working dogs. They didn't come because of eugenics. They came by the thought process of people that needed these dogs to do something for them. And that was it. It didn't matter. If a guy bought a dog or got a dog, let's say a fighting guy, not that I'm into dog fight, I don't, but you got to acknowledge that this was a fact of life. That's what created pit bulls and all bull breeds, was some form of gladiator type work. Mm. And I don't approve of it. I would never want to do that with a dog. I think it's horrible, but that is what gave me a bulldog. That's what gave us all bull breeds. And if you love bull breeds, boxers, whatever, it didn't come from ding dong saying, you got a white one? I got a white one. Let's breed them together. We'll make good bulldogs. That is not, it came from so-and-so has the best freaking catch dog. This son of a bitch works perfect. He catches, I can go in and harvest pigs or whatever, mm-hmm. and not get worried about getting killed. This dog does his job incredible. Mm-hmm. And when you bred on performance, intelligence, function, those things. If you line bred on a dog like that, or you tried to reproduce those traits, it's not quite, but it's almost as good as Mother Nature. Mother Nature is the ultimate. That bitch will cull the fuck out of everything, and she doesn't care what color it is. She doesn't care what, wolf pack is, every dog's got to fit in it. If they're not healthy, they'll die. Right. And if they're not strong, dominant, intelligent, they're not going to be the alpha, and they're not going to breed. So the same with any species, anything. It's, people say survival of the fittest or whatever. It is survival of the fittest or survival of the smartest, one or the other. It's an ultimate performance test. So if Mother Nature makes a mistake, it'll get corrected by circumstance, by life. The animal's got to perform. And only the toughest, the strongest are going to be bred, the most sound are going to be bred. And when you're a dog breeder, or any kind of breeder, that should be your ultimate example. We will fall short, because even when we test dogs, it's not an absolute test. I mean, in game dogs, I guess it can be, but it's not an absolute test. Herding sheep, you know what you need your dog to do and what he can do. So that, in that way, it's kind of an absolute test. If you're hunting and you got a pointer that is fantastic at finding and pointing at game, then he's great. Same with a walker hound, a plot hound. There's a lot of breeds in the United States that are not well known, but they're incredible working dogs, like these blackmouth curs. And I know that because it's not just one guy. These are hunters all over the United States. Some of them, they'll swear by blackmouth curs. Mm-hmm. And those guys aren't buying dogs or using dogs because of the way they look, or it's all about what can they do. Can they find game? Can they bay hogs? And they're just amazing. I've seen a ton of them, and they're amazing athletes. They're amazing dogs. So that's an American breed created in America. I think it was created better than the American Bulldog was created, unfortunately. But the way they were bred was, we need a dog to do this, and the dogs that do this the best, that's what we need. And they don't care if George down the street has a 3/4 blackmouth cur, 1/4 Airedale. Right. If it's working great, they're going to use it, because in a working breed, the first thing on your list for a dog that you're judging for true to type is the work, is the task that it's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. If it can't do that task, it doesn't matter how pretty it is. It doesn't matter what color it is. It doesn't matter what the paperwork, who its grandfather was, or who its great-grandfather was, or who it's line bred on. If it's not a good dog, if it can't work, it's not bred. Mm-hmm. And that's been probably my biggest shortcoming as a breeder, is testing it. The first 10, 15 years, I thought I knew everything, and I thought, that dog, I know a good dog. I know a good dog. I know the way the dog looks, the way it moves, the structure, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know shit till you put the dog out there. You do stuff. I've had dogs that I've placed with hog hunters that I'm like, there's no doubt in my mind this dog's going to catch. Mm-hmm. And like I have one right now that I gave a guy. She's like a big, impressive black female. I mean, she's impressive. She's like 88, 90 pounds. Mm-hmm. She can run all day. She's got an ugly head. She has a standard type head. She has a funky ear set. But I gave her to a guy who's a friend of mine who's a hog hunter. And he raised her up, and she caught. But as soon as the other dogs caught, she kind of lost interest. Right. Which is weird, like very weird, because her dad was an ace, like an unbelievable catch dog, and her grandpa, Mayday, was an incredible catch dog. Her great-grandpa was a good catch dog. And he said she's a good catch dog. She initially will catch and hold, but as soon as all the bay dogs jump on or the other catch dog does, she doesn't care.
What's your favorite registry and why?
I use NKC. I originally started out with the ARF, which I think they're defunct now. Mm-hmm. But the ARF was Johnson's registry. He found them, and they pretty much he ran everything. He did the standard, and if they had dogs that they did, they wanted a cold register, he was the one that approved it. And I went to their place once. We had a meeting in Texas. This guy Stodgill was the original guy who owned it, and his wife or his daughter took it over, and her husband pretty much ran it. And they did. Originally, I think it was a registry for Catahoulas. They bred Catahoula leopard dogs, but they registered a lot of working dogs, and but I don't think they really. I forget the guy's name that ran it. I don't think he knew much about American Bulldogs. I think he just, he referred to Mr. Johnson for everything. Mm-hmm. So I didn't care for them as much. They had nice paperwork, and they got it to you on time, all that stuff. For a little bit, there was a friend of mine, Tony Mancera, he bought or started this registry called the ABRA, and he got tired of it, I guess, and he sold it to these people up in Canada. And when they took it over, for a while there, they approached me and Jeff Daly, and we could just they'd let us register all our dogs for free. Mm. And I did it for a while. I guess I registered with them, and I never liked their paperwork, and it took forever sometimes to get it back, and it wasn't right half the time. And then they started putting on a lot of shows, and then they started changing the standard. People, like I said, my dog Gracie and Gaucho were black champions, and in the NKC, and then they became champions in the ABRA. And then people started complaining. They didn't like it. They didn't think a bully dog should be black or colored that much. Mm-hmm. So they complained, and they changed the standard. They tried to change the standard to say you have to have 15% white or 20% white. I'm like, okay, well, how much white do my dogs have? Look at the white. They have white on their feet, their chest, their neck, some of them on their face. Like, what is that 90%? They could never say. And then they started getting real political mm-hmm. and goofy shit with the dog shows and all this stuff. And they also, they catered only to the bully stuff. They really didn't care if the standard people would come to the shows. Matter of fact, they changed their standard, and it really didn't really cater much to the standard side. And they did other goofy shit, like in the original standard, they put the bully classic type American Bulldog should have a rolling gait. Mm. I'm like, what? Are you nuts? A rolling gait like an English Bulldog? Mm-hmm. Get out of here. That's an insult. That's a crime. Mm-hmm. And just other stuff. They changed this. They like bigger dogs, I guess, so they made the bottom on a male 24 inches or something. So I forget, 23 inches. I forget what it was, but I thought, well, that's kind of weird. That's not even the average. The average bully type male is probably 22 and a half to 23 and a half. Mm-hmm. 24 and a half to 25 is a big, tall dog. They can go up more than that, but usually the average is the 23, around the 23 mark. Right, I gotcha. And so I'd always registered with NKC. I like the paperwork comes out. They're not political. In American Bulldogs, somebody doesn't like you, or I'm a smart ass, and I used to piss a lot of people off on the internet, and they'd call that guy, he's a piece of shit, he's, whatever, they complain, but I like the NKC, they stay out of it. some people say, oh, they'll register anything. Oh, bullshit. I mean, any registry will register anything. Just about. I mean, if you got the paperwork or whatever, they'll register it. And there's stuff I've seen registered, I know, is a cross with English Bulldog or Old English Bulldogs,
right,
or Bull Mastiff or Dog de Bordeaux. But I used to think that was a big deal, but it's like there's so much. What is worse, to have a dog with an extra shot of something that was crossed 2 generations, 6 generations, 10 generations back, but it acts like an American Bulldog. It performs like an American Bulldog. It's healthy. Because I can tell you, there's a shit ton of dogs out there that are garbage. I mean, that you drop a can and they run to hide underneath a car, or they, for no reason, growl and want to go after people for nothing, for no reason. Or they're stupid dog aggressive, or they're just stupid, or they can't breathe, or they got elbow dysplasia, or they got these flat feet like a potato-looking foot off an English Bulldog. So many horrible things. And I hate to say this, but I don't know. I don't get on Facebook as much or the internet as much, but if I do, I go through them. I'm always curious to look at pedigrees and dogs, and I don't know, man. It just seems like in some cases the breed's doing great, but in some cases it's like, shit, they're going backwards, man.
right.
It's like I see a dog, it's like every paw is pointing in a different direction.
Yeah.
Their back feet, their rear end looks kind of weak, and their knees point out. And it's just horrible. Like that, got tons of wrinkle to their face, and they just look like nothing. There was a show that a guy that got a dog from me went to. He went there to meet some guy that was working dogs to do some stuff. But he sent me some video of some of the rings. There wasn't a lot of American Bulldogs there, but there was 2 pretty well-known dogs there. And one of them, both of them, I think, are beautiful. When I see them in pictures, I thought they looked pretty. And they're good-looking males. And one of them I really liked. You know, I really thought, I didn't think he was structured great, but I thought, wow, he's thick, he's cool, he's a cool-looking dog. But then I saw the videos of him, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, they're spongy fat like an English Bulldog. Their belly doesn't even tuck. It's like they almost have a beer belly. They're fat. And some of that is just that people feed them too much. I guess they think the thicker they look, the better they'll do. And they just have a general English Bulldog, soft hide, just features, you know, just, I don't know. I would have thought by this time there's so many really tight, muscled, beautiful, structured, freaky, extreme bully dogs, but I don't know. You know, and I guess people, they're down on color. And it's true. People do select for color, stupid colors. People accuse me of it, which I've had blue dogs. I've had chocolate dogs. I had one lilac dog. I don't have any blue dogs. I don't really have a lot of black dogs right now. If I think about it, I just, you know, I never look at the color. I learned that early on. I got that dog Broadzilla. She was the second pick of her litter. And the first pick was this big, fat puppy, beautiful puppy. Was dark red patches, colored up. You couldn't have given her a better paint job. And she was big. And here I had Broadzilla. She was just a white dog with fawn eye patches. And she was kind of a little roly-poly, fat little pup. And I brought her home. Well, when she grew up, she was freaky muscle, just beautiful structure, really tight skin. And then her sister was a nice dog, but she just was big and fat, just soft, real thick kind of hide to her. There was nothing spectacular about her. There was nothing. She was decent, but she ended up being a colorful dog that was average. And I got the white dog that was gorgeous. And it happens the other way too. I mean, you get colored dogs that are great. I don't pick a dogs on color. I don't pick dogs just because of the color. I've made different things just to see that I could do it, but I never have sacrificed making a blue dog or something like that. That's another thing I probably should explain. People don't understand color genetics. They think blue is a color. They think chocolate is a color. They think that lilac is a color, but that is not a color. The color is either brindle, red, or black. Those are the colors. The blue dog is, blue dog is a result of a gene that is a dilution gene. It dilutes the percentage of pigment in the hair follicle, in the skin, and in the eye. So it reduces the pigment in the. So if you took a hair of a blue dog and a hair of a black dog, you looked at it under a microscope, the black dog would look like a clear cylinder with a bunch of black spots in it. And if you look at the blue dog, it would look the same blue clear cylinder with 50% less black dots. So a true, like a blue, classic blue gray pit is a black dog with a reduction of its pigment. So it looks gray. That's why when you see blue dogs, any kind of blue dog, because you can have a red dog that has a blue gene, you get a brindle dog that has a blue gene. All those dogs, if you look at the hair, the colored hair, it has a sheen to it, almost like a pearlescent sheen. What that is that's that hair follicle, that hollow, that clear hair follicle that glistens in the sun. When you have a dog that's fully pigmented, it's just the hair follicle's all black or all red or whatever brindle coat pattern it has. That's what it is. So a blue dog, you can have a red dog that's blue and it's called blue fawn. You can have a black dog that's blue and it's called blue. Then you can have a brindle dog. When it has the blue, it's called blue brindle. So blue is just, and any dog is a reduction in the pigment in the hair and the skin and the eyes.
Right.
So it's just a color.